Good afternoon, and apologies for the short delay. Some of your colleagues had asked us to give them some time. We're going to have a very short briefing, which is led by the Honorable Minister. I welcome you to another briefing here about the plane crash, the helicopter crash that killed 6 of our beloved Kenyans. What we're establishing here is a process of being very, very open about what happened so as to be able to remove any speculation that is going on. So we'll be giving you information as much as possible so that you are aware of what is happening and you're aware also of the responsibilities that we do have as a people of Kenya. I want to introduce to you the people that are here with us. I'll start with on my right, we've got Colonel Irari Kioko, who is the Director General of Kenya Civil Aviation. And next to the Waziri is Mr. Moses Maina, who is standing in for the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Transport. And you all know very well Honorable Amos Kimunya. So I'll hand it over to him to give his briefing. Karibu Waziri. Thereafter, we can take your questions. Tell us your media house and your name.
I say this morning we had some of you. I remember seeing some of you at the meeting we had in this very building with His Excellency the President and all the members of Parliament. And at that point, I gave some very brief summary and agreed on some courses of action. So this meeting this afternoon is first of all to let you know since this morning what we've done, and then also get back into more details for yourselves because you might need that extra detail. So if I start from the way forward, and then we get to what happened. I want to say that I did promise that this afternoon we'll be constituting a team to help us with the public inquiry into the accident. And we've now finalized the consultations and agreed on some names. And I want to give you the first opportunity to know who these people are, and then we'll then have it obviously within the Gazette notice at the earliest opportunity. As Minister for Transport, again in exercise of the authority vested in me by the Civil Aviation Act, Investigations and Accidents Regulations, I've appointed the following. 1, Lady Justice Kalpana Rawal, Judge of Appeal, as Chairperson. And 2, Major General, retired, Harold Mwakai Tangai, as Assessor, and Mr. George McOwenga as an Assessor, working together with counsel that will be assisting this court of inquiry will be Mr. Charles Mutinda and Mrs. Faith Irari from the Attorney General's office. The final details of their terms and all that will be contained within the Gazette notice that will be releasing immediately. It's all been fine-tuned at the Attorney General's office, and we did not want to delay you until we have it with us. But the names have been agreed, the terms have been agreed, and the law is already in place that basically sets up this inquest. It requires that we have a chairman and 1 or 2 assessors. So that will be the team that will facilitate the carrying out of the public inquest. And the natural thing after this, because you're going to ask me, is the Attorney General will facilitate them in terms of where they sit. They will be constituted as a court, and then the people, all the stakeholders will appear. The families will be represented. There's a framework within which each of the people who have a stake in the matter will be represented, and members of the public will then be invited to come and give their views in terms of what happened, in terms of what should not have happened, in terms of how we can stop this in the future, so that we are looking at not just what happened on that day, which we all regret, but how can we stop similar incidents occurring again in our airspace into the future. So that's the way going forward, and we trust that these people have the experience, the legal experience, and the aviation experience to help us with that task. The second bit of information I wanted to share with you is again giving you the final details, and you'll be given copies of this for your own retention. And again, for the benefit of all those who are not there, is that we yesterday in the morning we lost 6 Kenyans through near accident. The helicopter was a Eurocopter type AS-350. It's registered in January of this year as 5Y CDT, operated by the Kenya Police Air Wing, and the aircraft departed Wilson Airport at 5:32 GMT, which is 8:32 local time, with 6 on board, which included the late Minister Saitoti, his assistant minister, Orojode. There are 2 security personnel and the 2 pilots. The indications we have again from yesterday is that the flight was normal in terms of the flight profile until the time when we lost communication, and that was having left at 8:32. At 8:37, the aircraft did communicate, saying they are now approaching the zone outside the Wilson command zone, and were then given a new frequency to then use for purposes of communication with Jomo Kenyatta at the Air Traffic Control Center. And since that time, there was no further contact was between the aircraft and the control tower, and even looking now through the radar system, we lost track of the aircraft at 8:42 a.m., which means it now was off the air and on the ground. The weather information was indicated, that there was a cloud base at 1,600 feet above Wilson Aerodrome with a visibility of 10 kilometers. And from NGON'G, again, at 9 a.m., it indicated scattered clouds and some fog, and with visibility, I believe it was 8 kilometers. So the rest is what we are now trying to piece together, what could have gone wrong. But those are the facts as we have established. In terms of the aircraft, again, it had a certificate of airworthiness that expires next year on 23rd of January 2013. It was registered, like I said, in January this year in Kenya on 12th of January, certificate number 2360. It was manufactured last year, 27th of July, so it's fairly new. And by the time it was registered, it had done 32 hours, basically the time to bring it here, and the testings before registration. The aircraft was licensed to carry a minimum of 1 pilot and 5 passengers. But the procedure within the police air wing has been to actually provide, police always go in twos, to provide two pilots manning the aircraft and a maximum of 4 passengers. The engine type is an aerial 2D, and again, the total hours I had said at the point of registration. In terms of the crew, because this might be of importance to you, the pilots are Nancy Mruga Gitwanja, licensed as a commercial license for helicopters, was issued in 2009 in December, and a private pilot license issued for helicopters had been issued earlier in April of 2008. For type ratings, she was authorized to pilot Bell 206s as well as the AS350 on commercial, and Bell 206 MI-17 and AS350 on private. So they're quite competent to handle the aircraft. She had a total of 1,166 hours, and with 76 hours on that specific type, and was actually trained by Eurocopter in South Africa on 25th of January, which was then endorsed on her license. And her colleague, Luke Owino Oyugi, again held a commercial license that was issued on 17th of January 2012, and a private pilot license issued on 2nd of April 2008 for helicopters, again around the same time, with aircraft ratings of Bell 206 and AS350 for commercial, Bell 206, MI-17 and AS350 for private, again the same ratings for the two pilots. And by the time he received his license, he had clocked 894 hours, of which 775 were as pilot in command, and in Eurocopter also endorsed his license on 16th of February. And basically, like I said, at 8:26 is when the aircraft called the tower on frequency 121 for startup, and basically said we are 6 persons on board departing for Diwa, and was approved and transferred to the tower on frequency 118.1 for departure clearance. They get airborne at 8:32, and 8:37 they report approaching the zone boundary. And at that point, at 8:38, they were then transferred to the Flight Information Center on frequency 118.5, and they confirmed the same, and we lost all communication. So between then and now is now the subject of investigation and the subject of the inquiry to see what happened. And the only thing we know is we lost 6 brilliant Kenyans, and we continue joining their families and friends at these difficult times in terms of comforting them, as we cannot replace the people, but we can reduce the pain the families are going through, and hope that we'll move together on the journey to reconcile their souls and their minds and thoughts with their loved ones, because it's very tragic when somebody leaves you in the morning. I'm going to Thiwa, I'm going to accompany Waziri, and then within minutes, you then find the kind of news. And for me personally, again, I would want to also say I've lost 2 very good friends in terms of Professor Setoti, who was our party chairman within PNU, and I'm Secretary General. So we were working very closely, and we were scheduled to have a meeting today. And also the late Ojode, who we started with in 2003 as my assistant minister in lands, and we became very good friends, and we've been working very closely in Parliament because internal security is always having issues in Parliament. And whenever I was not there as Deputy Leader of Government Business, I knew that Serikali would be there. And I would always call him and say, Serikali, uko wapi? I'm here for bunge. Take charge until I come. So it's people we lost and we've grown fond of. And also the 2 officers, because I've flown with them, they really loved that aircraft. And you could see the pride they had that now as police they're doing this. And obviously the security, they're very experienced chaps. And it's a loss. but as a country, we have to learn how to live with it and get the facts out. And we do hope that we shall get to the bottom of this in terms of piecing together the information. And like I said in the morning, and we'll continue saying, it's important to know what happened, and we'll do that. But for us going forward, we would want to avoid another accident if by getting the information, it will help us in terms of going forward, so we don't lose any other Kenyan, or indeed the aviation industry does not lose any other passenger anywhere in the world, because air travel is supposed to be the safest. And that's why we get very concerned when we lose one, and whatever experience we get from what happened in Kenya, with something we'll be sharing with the rest of the world, so that they also know what to do should similar circumstances prevail. I think that's about it now for now. If there's an issue, we'll be happy to respond.
Any questions? Anybody? Yes, give us a name and media house, please.
Okay. My name is Ferdinand Mundi from NTV. I have two questions, one to the Minister. These are some moments, and I'm sure that during the inquiry a lot of details will come out. But at the moment already we're hearing from some of these people very close to the pilots, not necessarily from the ones who were here yesterday, but some people who are very close, some of the pilot or some of the VIP, saying that there is a culture of mkubwa amefika, mkubwa amesema, to the extent that even when it is not advisable for some of these choppers to take home, the pressure from the leaders who admittedly have very, very probably tough deadlines or need to do some tasks, insists that let us go and then you can solve this issue later. Has this culture been, there was a reaction towards that? Sometimes the pilots feel that now once they've been given orders that to obey, even if it's against the protocol, whereby the plane should not take off. Secondly, to Mr. Colonel Kyoko, who actually makes the last call when the chopper is about to take off? Who gives the all clear that now it is safe for you to fly?
I could get you the first one. One thing I can tell you is I have had the occasion to fly with the late Minister Saitoti, and there's nobody who was as cautious about safety as forget even the security, safety as the late professor. And I on occasion, we've actually had to abandon flying with one aircraft, because if he's not 100% sure that it has everything in place, he will not touch it, and he will not allow anyone else to touch it. So the issue of executive overrides does not happen in air travel. And I think that's something that we have made very clear to the aviation industry, that nobody can plead that I was told to do this. All the systems must be put in place. And there's a log that shows at what point did you call the air traffic control, what were you told, and if somebody dares to disobey and they take off without clearance, then it's a very great breach, and they would actually be forced to come back. So there is nothing like, those are speculation, but certainly we will not have noticed it from the specific people on board this aircraft. And indeed, on any other VIP, will not be overriding the instructions from the captains. And in terms of the takeoff, and I'll let Kanokioko take that.
What I just
No,
want,
you need to go to the mic.
what I need to state here is that the safety of flight rests on the captain, and the captain alone is the one to make a decision on the best profile of flight, or on the right action to take in case there is a requirement to move away from the profile that is flying.
Yes, please. There's a microphone.
I'm Judith. I work for the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. The first question I would like to ask is to the Director General. We are told that there is a report that the last pilot had actually provided before the one who took over this instrument actually took over. Would you please tell us what this report is about? Because there's speculation, and it would be right that we actually get the exact picture of what it is. And then to the Minister, how long is this inquiry supposed to take before we actually get the report? And my last question would be again to the Director General. Your organization is the one that actually licenses the pilots. How many hours would a pilot actually have done to be rated as experienced? Because I really feel 1,000 are quite few. Thank you.
The report you are talking about of another pilot taking over is not available to us, and indeed what the minister has informed you is what we have gathered from preliminary reports, and there is no report like that. On your second question, these pilots, the hours they have are sufficiently competent to undertake this particular flight. Remember, this aircraft is authorized for a minimum of one pilot, and in this particular case there were two of them. So the flight, the operation was properly conducted.
You had more than you needed. And in terms of the inquiry, again, it will depend on how fast we can get. It's a public inquest. The members of public will come, and it basically, once we constitute this inquest, it takes over the investigation currently being carried by the Chief Inspector. So it's in our interest to have a very expedited conclusion, but also something conclusive. So it's very difficult to say we'll give them 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We'll give them adequate time to piece together the evidence, and they'll be reporting progress as it goes on. And the Attorney General's office, by law required, is also supposed to ensure that the matter is expedited in the wider public interest.
I think we can take one or two last questions, please, because of time, and you still have to follow the stories.
Yeah, my name is Willis Raburu from Citizen TV. My question is, there have been reports from some eyewitnesses that say they saw the flight flying dangerously low and emitting some sounds that could point to a mechanical problem. Have you been able to establish this? And then secondly, there were some reports also that the engineers from Eurocopter were to arrive today to help in the investigations. Can you confirm whether they have arrived, and probably if they have any preliminary findings?
Now, in terms of the eyewitness accounts, you know, very difficult for a layman to know when is a helicopter flying low or high. You know, people will tell you, we saw the vehicle coming speeding. We think the brakes failed, but nobody was in the car. So the reason we are having this inquest is that all those people who saw or thought they saw can come in and say what they saw. And then experts will put together all those issues. We also have the video, tracking system. We also have the radar. The police have their tracking of the aircraft. That's how they were able to see it's lost. So we put together all those things, and most importantly is to appreciate that in this air accident, when you lose all the passengers, when it gets burned the way it was burned, there's nobody who can tell you this is what was happening, right? So we reconstruct all the evidence and try to piece it together, and hopefully we'll get to some lead as to what actually cost the aircraft to fall off from the last known height at 300 feet, which is safe traveling distance within the choppers. They can fly off even at 100 feet or lower. So ignore the stories about people saying it was moving low, it was doing this, until we get this. In terms of the manufacturers, obviously they have an interest, is one of the stakeholders, and as they come, they'll be coming on board and they'll be part of the people expected to appear before the inquest. Yeah.
And I think we take, two questions. And also if I can add from the minister, I don't know, helicopters are pretty loud, so I don't know how somebody can tell a helicopter has a problem or not. You know, it's not like a car that goes ying. So, you know, that's speculation, but members of the public, it's hard for anybody to tell that that helicopter has a problem. I mean, I can't tell. And I've flown choppers before. So, yes.
My name is Amos Kimunya from KTN. I just want to do a follow-up question from Willis Raburu about the French engineers. Will they be conducting an independent investigation and lead fall into yours? And secondly, there was a suggestion from some members of government that some of these new models should be grounded until it is completely made clear that there are no mechanical problems with any of them. What is your reaction towards this?
The aircraft engineers, the aircraft company, like I said, they have a stake in this, you know, like every other person, partly because it's their name. It's a new aircraft, which has only done 32 hours. By the time it was registered, it's done less than 100 hours as of now. So it's fairly new. And it's in their interest also to establish what happened. For us, we are also interested in getting from them. And we usually collaborate in all these things. You get as many stakeholders as possible collaborating together. And we work on the investigation. So we can't stop them from carrying out an independent or joint, right? They'll do their own independent, we'll also be doing our own joint. And there are many more players. Even their own competitors will also be interested in knowing what happened. In terms of whether we are going to ground all the aircraft, we don't wait for an accident to determine whether an aircraft is airworthy or not. It's a continuous process. And although the certificate of airworthiness is issued for 1 year, the owners of the aircraft and the captains and the engineers are first of all interested. Every pilot knows they are taking a personal risk as they take the aircraft into the air. So they have a personal interest to ensure that the aircraft they are taking into the air is safe and sound, even before they put in a passenger or before they put in cargo. And they're very passionate about that. So it's something that is on a continuous basis being assessed, and the aircraft will continue being assessed, but we don't need to ground aircraft. Indeed, yesterday after it was determined that this aircraft had vanished, a second aircraft was dispatched to actually get to the site and track this. So you don't stop moving because of one, but you get lessons from it, and you intensify your searches, you intensify your maintenance, and I believe on that we have not been lacking.
And also to add is that this aircraft was brand new, but it's not a new aircraft in Kenya. We've got about at least 5 or more that have been operating of the same type of chopper that are currently operating in the Kenyan airspace for several years. So it's not new in Kenya. It's a chopper that has been used in Kenya many times.
Are they in the police service or for private individuals?
Private individuals.
Private. Two are in police.
Police has
Only
This one and then
and the bigger ones.
the bigger ones.
Yeah.
The belt.
And the bell, yeah.
Basi tumesema asante sana. Shukran.